The Welfare Trap. April 15, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. Nearly every day I get calls, emails, letters, from desperate young mothers and fathers who are faced with losing their children to a state-of-state organization, families traumatized to the bone by Child Protective Services raids, and damaged third parties. What I mean by damaged third parties, imagine that you are 9 months pregnant and you go to your sister's house to stay with her to be closer to the hospital. While you are there having breakfast with her, the police raid her house and find a stash of drugs belonging to the sister's erstwhile boyfriend. The police arrest everyone and drug test everyone, including you, and although your forced drug test comes up absolutely clean, they claim you are an unfit mother just because you were there in a house that contained illegal drugs, and they drag you in front of a judge trying to make you sign away your child before he is even born. That's third-party damage. The circumstance and the crime or other infraction actually has nothing to do with you, but you get dragged into it. Such a circumstance is only made possible because all three people in this sad story were on welfare and/or claiming to be U.S. citizens. Almost invariably, these young people who get into messes like this were beguiled or entrapped into the welfare culture. They thought, hey, all I have to do is fool around with my girlfriend, get her pregnant, have a bunch of kids and the government will pay for everything. I can be her backdoor man, and it will all be cool. But when you abdicate your responsibilities, you also give up your rights. When you, a young woman, start out your life like this, you are offering yourself as a brood mare for the hive. Both you and your children will be enslaved to the British Crown, and your neighbors and friends and family will be the ones taxed to pay for your support. As a young man getting into this scenario, the prospects are even worse. The government will find out your identity as the biological father, they will assess child support payments plus interest for every penny you owe, according to them, which is often a capricious and unrealistic amount, they will endlessly interfere with your life and yes, they will steal your kids. You get to pay, but you don't get to play. I know men in their 50s who are still paying child support for kids that are in their 30s, kids that didn't ever get the benefit of a penny of all that money when they were children, and which continues to flow into state-of-state coffers a decade or more after they are all grown up. Now, you figure it out. Everyone would be miles ahead just to support unwed mothers privately, but what would be even better is if parents wise up and make the effort to clue in their children from the get-go. It isn't just about morality. It's about practicality. Drum it into the youngsters that they are responsible for any new life they bring into the world and that failure to honor that responsibility is not really a viable choice. If they have kids out of wedlock and turn to welfare, they will be subjects of the government themselves, and they and their children will be enslaved. And in many, many cases, because it is more profitable for the government, they will lose their children, too. The slave masters can charge the rest of us more money if they take your kids and put them in foster care. So that's what they do. Once in foster care, the vast majority of children are neglected and abused, and your flesh and blood, your innocent little children, are suffering and so are you, and you are all enslaved as chattel to a faceless corporation owned by smug businessmen who are getting rich as middlemen. All those welfare bennies are like a carrot in a rabbit trap. They aren't really benefits. They are bait. Just to be sure everyone understands, the government doesn't actually pay for or contribute anything to this welfare system. They give you nothing, zero, nada. What they do is stand in the middle and whip and beat taxes out of other people in your community who are working and being productive to pay for your expenses and the expense of your kids, then, they turn around and lord it over you and your children as if they were the source of all the money and support, and additionally, they cut themselves fat salaries and pensions, etc., for providing this service on top of it. The end result? You have cured the problem, unwed mothers and fatherless kids without a means of support, by adding a worse problem, a bloated, criminal bureaucracy that takes its cut and makes things 100 times worse for everyone concerned. The only one who is actually being served are all the public employees standing as the middlemen. The actual public, you and your community, is being bilked to the tune of billions of dollars and untold suffering throughout America. I am just telling you what you already should know, what our forefathers knew, and what we all need to learn again: the government is an evil. It may be necessary, but it is still an evil. Keeping it strictly limited is what is best for everyone concerned, and that should be our goal, keeping the government limited and out of our lives as much as possible. But, hey, that also requires us to be responsible for our lives so that we can claim our rights and not be subject to these criminals in suits. Rights come with responsibilities. If you want your parental rights and want to keep your children and grandchildren under your control, better get your own ducks in order and reclaim your own birthright political status. Better join your state assembly, too. Make it your goal to never have to rely on the government for anything. Take it all seriously and teach your children, too. Your rights begin and end with your responsibilities. If you self-govern, nobody has any right to govern you. Or your children, either. Especially not any officious fat men working for foreign commercial corporations.